Welcome to One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most. I'm your host, Dr. Wayne Pernell, your host, your guide, and your coach on this journey. With me today, a really special guest. This is a gentleman I've had the pleasure of talking with a few times, and every time his story is just so deep and rich and um, where he came from is pretty incredible. Most of us would aspire to have the journey he's had. Right now, he is the chief of staff for BYU Athletics, but he didn't start there. He's had some triumphs along the way. We're going to talk about the leadership journey. Damon Dixon, welcome to One Sharp Sword. That's easy for me to say. Here you go. Welcome.
Hey Wayne, how are you? Great to be here. Super excited.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to have you. Thank you. Damon, we've had some good conversations already, and today's another conversation. This time we're letting an audience in on what we talk about. And I'd love to talk a little bit about your leadership journey. You didn't start as chief of staff for BYU Athletics. You found your way here. Um, but it wasn't just finding your way. I mean, you started in biotech, right?
Yeah, I started in biotech, but before biotech, I served in the military for some time.
Yeah, for some time. All right. I Here's what I want to do. I want to start with your why, because what you told me about your why was just it captured me. So, what you told me is, well, do you know it off the top of your head? Because the riff you gave me was amazing, and I wrote it down. What did you tell me? Do you remember?
I do. Can I start with my journey on how I found my why?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I getting ready to transition out of the military after a 33-year career, including my time at the Naval Academy.
Yeah,
I I we did a lot of leadership development, and one of my great leaders, Admiral John Ocon, we had a book club we were doing, and one of them was Start With Why by Simon Sinek.
yeah.
Great book. I love the book, and it was everything you do start with why. And this was toward the end of my career, and so as I was getting ready to transition, I broke the book open and read it again, and I'm like, you know what? I need to figure out what my why is. Why does Damon Dixon get up in the morning and do the things I do? And I started researching it a bit and looking at it. And one of the guidance that I saw was go find a friend, a great friend, not a family member, and ask them why you're a good friend. So I asked one of my good friends, and he said, "Damon, you make me want to be a better person." I'm like, "Oh wow, that's like the ultimate compliment you ever could want." And so I thought about that, and then I thought about my time serving in the Navy. And what excited me was when my people promoted, grew, got awards, just did great things. Watching my people, I don't know, celebrate their successes really excited me. And I thought about it, and then I thought about this is a journey back of what I did at the Naval Academy playing football, what I did when I was leading, and it was all about performing above my potential, right? Let me say, I'm go back even further. So coming out of I grew up in the Bay Area. Coming out of high school, I had a dream of playing Division I football. You can't tell, but I'm 5'8", 165 pounds. Um, and I had a dream of playing Division One, and I Stanford, UCLA, those were my two go-to schools. I had just become baptized a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so I was also looking at BYU at the time, and none of those schools wanted me, but the academies were willing to take a chance. So I
You
went to
were
the
we're
academy.
5'8", 165, so that is something. And here's the thing, you said something that I just want to bring out, right? That you were living and playing above your potential, which is a remarkable thing to say, right? Because it's like, no, most people go, my potential's unlimited. I just don't know what it is yet. And it's like, I was playing above my potential. And so 5'8", 165, you're like, I have this dream. I want to play Division One. Um, Amazing. And you went for it. And
Yeah, yeah, I went for it. I was one of these people. My parents taught me early to set big goals, and it started when I was, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. And I
uh,
grew up in the Bay Area, and swimming was a big deal. Names like Matt Biondi, and they were in our community, and I don't know. I just always wanted something big, and my dad played college football. My grandpa played college football, playing the pros. So I had this vision that hey, this is who I want to be. I want to follow in their footsteps, and it became who I was. And so I set that goal, and the academies were interested. And so I went to the Naval Academy. And funny is, I couldn't even get straight into the Naval Academy. I had to go to the Naval Academy Prep School, which actually was a blessing in disguise. Um, I wasn't a good enough player, or my grades weren't good enough, but I went there and I just thrived. It was amazing. It was hard. It was not what I expected. Had no idea the military wasn't something that I was aspiring to be a part of. But I went to the academy, played football, did amazing things, way beyond, like you said, beyond my potential. It was pretty cool because I was a wide receiver, and at the time, the academy just brought in a an offensive coordinator, Greg Briner. And he kind of ran the West Coast offense. So we were throwing the ball a lot, and he had me coming out of the backfield, and I caught a lot of passes. One of the quarterbacks, Jim Kubiak, was one of my great friends, and he and I both went to the prep school together, and we worked hard. We grinded together, and so he knew exactly where I'm going to be. And so I set some records there. And the academy doesn't throw as much as they do as they're running the option and different type of offense now. And so it's exciting to see them, doing so well. But so I went there and I maximized. Go ahead.
I want to just, I want to share what you shared with me is two things. One, you said in a previous conversation, you said, I wasn't a great athlete, but I did set these big goals. And I love that. I love that. The other thing is you went on to catch 51. Like, right? You had 51 catches and you did it again a second year, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So, I mean, I wanted to, maybe that was maybe that's where you were headed with the story. I just wanted to like celebrate that. This is, you had these huge goals. You lived into like really fulfilling them and I think this is the leadership journey for pretty much anybody. I talk about listen to the whispers, and it's like, it's those things that people set aside for someday. And for you, it was like, I have these goals. I have this dream. I want to be a receiver, a wide receiver. And, you did, you made a difference, but you also had setbacks. So talk a little bit about that too, because just like you, you broke something along the way too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There were setbacks all along the way. I mean, I could go on. I think it was toward the end of so at the prep school we played. We had it was like getting a redshirt year, and so we had about 11 games, and things went well. There was about three of us wide receivers who were about the same. Mike Jefferson, Tom Pritchard. I think we're all about had the same amount of receptions.
Mm.
Right before we graduated from the prep school to go to be at the academy, I was in the locker room training, and I broke my ankle and had two screws put in it. And so when I showed up as a freshman at the Naval Academy, I'm on crutches. Well, Mike Jefferson and Tom Pritchard went on to become the one of the first starters as a freshman at the Naval Academy. And Mike Jefferson was also a great receiver there. So it was tough to be. I remember never forget the first game I was marching with the brigade to watch the football team play, and that was hard. I wasn't necessarily part of that team, and so seeing these guys that I played with before, and I wasn't part of that. So it was a difficult first few games. Eventually, I got healthy and made the team, but never actually played my freshman year.
You did become a starter.
Yeah, it wasn't until my junior year a few things happened that I was able to win the starting job, and that was one of my goals. I talked about this goal journey, setting the goal to play Division I football, setting the goal to become a starter. Had a great junior year, and this is a kind of a cool story that I'd love to share. Uh,
Please.
is in between my junior and senior year, the our coach George Chump brought in this leadership group that talked about goal setting, mission statements, and we kind of created this personal mission statement. And so, personal mission statement was something that you were good at and part of your dream or your vision of where you wanted to be. And after I started, I next personal goal was to become an All-American. Hindsight, that may not be a worthy goal because it's an outcome and it's not really in your control. But nonetheless, that was who I was. And so my personal mission statement was I am an All-American wide receiver and catch every pass thrown my way. I had pretty good hands and could catch most things that that Coobs was throwing at me. And I taken that with my goal and I put it in my uniform pocket. I had it on a 3x5 card, wrote it down, and carried it everywhere I went. And it became who I was. First one on the field, last one off, and that just became I'm going to do everything I can to make this goal become reality. Um, never achieved that goal. I did things that were way above what most people thought I could do as far as on the field. So in the end, it all worked out, and I'm grateful for it. But that was kind of who I was.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. And I want to call that out. This is you said I'm an All-American wide receiver and catch every pass thrown my way, and that became your identity. You grew into it, and it's like having this massive goal that you said you didn't have control over. You didn't have control over whether somebody was going to pick you or whatever, but you had control over um, outworking, out hustling, being first on the field, being last off the field. You had control over that, because otherwise what people do, and I think this is really important because what you did was the foundation of amazing success. It's what I call exponential success. You you build and you build and you build, and all of a sudden something happens for you. And it's like you're laying down basically you're laying down the reps till you can't get it wrong. It's forget which either athlete or actor or songwriter said, you practice so much, not until you get it right, but you practice so much till you can't get it wrong. And um, when you have a goal, you keep it in your pocket, you read it every day, you say it out loud, it does become who you are. And you become that thing. That's so many people miss that. So many people miss that. It's like I'll become that thing later. Let me go off and do the thing I should do. And it's like they're not exclusive. There's great overlap. Do the thing that's going to get you stability. Great, do that. But also live into that thing. You're the only one that has that calling, right? That unique thing inside of you that drives you. And so you've got to honor that and become that. I love that. I love
No,
everything about that.
thank you. I appreciate it. Um, I so I guess my point, I'm trying to get to my point of my why. Uh, and so that mentality that I took playing football at Navy, I took right into my naval career, of how I did business, how I perform missions, and the task I went about, which was maximizing everything I can to be the best, outwork, out hustle. I love those words. Those are the words that I use.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm into my career about 5 years, and I decide that I'm going to um, go get an MBA on my own. And I had a mentor, maybe it was 7 years, a little bit in, a mentor he eventually became, I think he was my boss at the time. He was a Navy SEAL that became a naval oceanographer and a naval meteorologist, which is what the community I was in. And he said, Damon, why are you thinking about getting out of the Navy? The Navy is a laboratory of leadership. Every day you learn a leadership principle, and every day you get to practice it. And you know what? Academy is truly a laboratory of leadership, and the Navy is that. I'm going through my career, and I was so focused in on mission and getting my tasks done. I'll never forget me as an ensign on my first ship, running around with my flip chart of tasks I've got to do. And yes, I had a team that I was leading, but it wasn't so much me about really diving in and loving and making this team great. I'm like, Bruce, I missed it. And that kind of changed the course of my career. And from then on, I was like, you know what? You're right. It is. I needed it. And that's when I started focusing on my people and my team and really wanting to get the most out of my team, and the people that I work with and to make them better. And it wasn't just my team, it was my colleagues that I worked alongside with to make them better. And so as I get to this why of, I had a friend tell me, hey, make me want to be a great person. And I thought what I loved and what I did, and it only made sense, which was to inspire all I come in contact with so that they maximize their potential. And I because that's how I lived, and that's what I think made the people and my teams great. And so that's my why. That's the long story of the why it took us
That's
15
great.
minutes to get
Say it
there.
again. So say it again, right?
To inspire all I come in contact with so that they maximize their potential.
Yeah. I think that's amazing, right? So it's that's what gets you up in the morning and moving people forward, lifting as you lead. They're huge, huge statements. Um, you told me nothing inspires or nothing excites me more than seeing my people grow, succeed, and promote. And it's like that's pretty darn great, right? That's like you can't do it for them, but you can certainly be there to help along the way. Um, yeah. Yeah, so these days, you're looking at leadership development for yourself and for some of the others that you're working with. What else is going on? What else, do you want to share?
Yeah, that point, I can't, as you talk about it, um, I, I had, like I said, the military, there's a lot of opportunities to learn about leadership. And one of those times I was stationed in Italy, and I was getting ready to transfer back to the States. And before I did, they it was like kind of a junior officer, or I was a commander in the Navy, and they brought me back to for a leadership conference, and they had Liz Wiseman, who wrote the book Multipliers. I'm not sure if you've ever read it, but that book really really helped me, because it was multiplying the talents around you, which is kind of what I built my leadership framework on, right? It wasn't it's like I'm never the smartest person in the room, but my ability to make teams great and make those around me perform better than they actually can be for more their potential, so that the whole team, it's not just a 2x, it's a 4x, it's an 8x increase of what you can do. And so that thought process and mindset framed who I am today. And as I transitioned out of the service into corporate America, that was kind of my, I don't know, my elevator pitch of what I'm going to do and help make these organizations that I work with great.
So great. So some of the leadership management positions you've held, you don't have to say which companies necessarily, but talk a little bit about the positions you've held, if you don't mind.
Um, I mean, basically, I did 33 years in the service.
Okay.
I had some great tours there. One of them was, like I said, I was an oceanographer, meteorologist, but I did a lot of other things. For whatever reason, I always find myself in the middle of operations.
Yeah.
In when I
You're
was,
doing
go
you-
ahead.
you're doing mentorship now though, right? Also, these days, don't you're mentoring kids?
Yeah, I'm obviously one-offs, people that I come in contact with from athletes that I'm watching or seeing, or folks in church that I work with. I mentor them and help them, grow and, achieve their goals, right? So absolutely, that's
And
part of it.
and so if, if you were to have a mentee ask you, wow, Damon, like what would be the three keys to success you could share? What would you tell your somebody that you're mentoring?
It depends what they're trying to achieve. First thing as I would do is I say set goals. I mean, the same thing that my parents taught me, right? I mean, set goals because if you don't have a and 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 it's probably even before that is create somehow a vision. What is something? I mean, how do you set a goal? It's something. What do you like to do? What are you good at? What makes you happy? Right? Those kind of things to see to really get people because once you have a direction that you're going to achieve, then you can put a plan together to achieve that objective or that goal. And I think that's what I love is the journey. One of these somewhere along the line, um, after after serving for some years, after playing football, I still had that competitive juice, and I got into triathlons. And I had a friend that I worked with was a triathlete. That's swim, bike, and run. And there's all sorts of distances. And he said, "Hey, I'll build you a bike because I can run and I can swim, but I never really got into bike riding. And so he built me a bike. And from then on, I had this vision of like, gosh, you know what? There's all sorts of distances. And then it became like I did a sprint, and then I did an Olympic distance, and then I did a half Ironman distance." And then they have this thing called a full Ironman, and so I had a vision of, you know what, someday I want to do a full Ironman, and I set that goal. I had that vision of doing it. I visioned myself, and I was actually able to get onto the Navy triathlon team and compete in the Ironman World Championships in Kona because of that. And that was one of those things that I set these big goals to achieve. And so back to your question, what are those three things you're going to talk to? One is set these goals so that you can put a plan together to work to get them. The next piece I would be is really find a mentor, find lots of mentors, find people that want to help you. There are people out there that want to help you, and from then on, it's all about, it's about loving people and helping people be better. Because if you do that, if you put God first in your life, everything's going to work out. And that was also part of my mentality moving forward. And so those would be the three things that I would tell someone is set big goals, put God first, and get a mentor and love people.
That's amazing.
I guess that's
Uh,
four.
that is four, and who's counting? That's great. Set big goals, and before that, you said find the thing that you're happy about, right?
You know you are bigger than the life you are leading. It really is time to attend to that thing you've wanted to do or have, but you've been putting off. It's time to step into that dream you've parked for someday. It's time to claim true well-being, both personally and professionally, without giving up the success that got you here. It's time to check out Dr. Pernell's signature small group retreat, the Exponential Success Summit. Explore exponentialsuccesssummit.com. Seats are extremely limited as this is a very special small group event. www.exponentialsuccesssummit.com.
What makes you happy? And so many people put that off. And that's what I like. I keep coming back to that, Damon, because so many people do put that off. Oh, I'll be happy later. Like I have to do this work. And it's like, well, yes, and the work you do can make you happy. All right. So when you're aligned, when you're in this place of, I am doing the work I love, and when you talk about love people and help them get better, it's like that's so great because um isn't that what we're all doing, right? Even if it's a job you can't stand right now, somewhere in that job is something that is helping another person. And if you can find that and let that motivate you, oof, it's good. And tap into that, right? So set goals, find a mentor, love people, um, and follow your spiritual path for yourself, whatever makes sense to you. Those are great. four steps. I love it. I love it.
What what's interesting is in my career, and I haven't really talked about it that much, but I mean, God's hand, I see God's hand. As I look back at it, I see God's hand in every person that I talked to, every mentor that I had, every job that I had led to something else. And let me just, if I could just share a story. So I'm in MBA school. In MBA school, early on, they had a leadership class, and you had to map out your career and where it went and where you wanted to go. And this is kind of that whole vision and goal piece. And I'll never forget the class. And I had an end state of, I wanted to be in as an athletic director at some point. And there was a job in the Navy that I remember when I was playing football, there was a deputy athletic director at the Naval Academy as a military position. And so I thought, okay, my military career, that's a job that I want to have right before I transition out. And so I put I built my career of where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do to get to this position. And so here I am getting ready. I don't know, 23 years in, 24 years in, and this job becomes available. And I go and I had been networking and staying close with the athletic director at the Naval Academy. His name was Chet Gladchuck at the time. And I went and interviewed with him, and one of my fellow actually teammates had the job before I got there, and he was getting ready to transition and had a great interview. And Chet's like, "Yeah, we want to offer you this position." I said, "Wow, this is amazing." Um, there was one thing. It was a job for a Navy pilot. I wasn't a Navy pilot, so I was not allowed. Even though I got offered the job, I was all excited. There was a board that met that determined whether I could go to this job because I wasn't part of that community, and I couldn't go. So my dreams, right? Talk about a setback. Is
Yeah.
here's the dream job. I've actually put this whole plan in over 25 years together, and it didn't happen. And you know what? It just wasn't part of the plan for me. I went on and did um, I did amazing things. After that, my boss put me in great positions. And for whatever reason, at that time, that wasn't the right job. I went on and I transitioned out of the military, and I thought that the mission of saving lives is a big mission of what we do in the service. And I thought that biotech company that I found was Kite Pharma, and they focused on curing cancer. And I thought that was a great mission purpose and what I wanted to do and drive to. And I I was I don't know, it just made all the sense. So I went to the biotech community. Well, it was great. It was with Kite. I love Kite. Kite was an awesome start for me after the military. Uh, I had a great team that I was working with. Unfortunately, things happened there, and my job was eliminated. And so here I am looking for a position. Well, this is just comes full circle, and my ability to went back to one of my mentors, talked to him. He connected me with somebody in BYU Athletics, and little bit alone, here I am. I found a position, and it might not have been at the right time. I was probably about 10 years ago. So 10 years later, here I am, and I'm doing something that I love and I'm happy about, right? That makes me
Yeah.
happy. I love
Yeah.
sports. I love leading, helping people. So it's all good.
This is, I mean, you've said some amazing things, right? So for you, and different people will hear this differently. For you, God's hand was in it every step of the way. And I'm a big believer of this or something better, that we don't always know what the next step is. We get attached to this outcome of, I really want this thing. And it's like, well, maybe when that thing doesn't happen, the next big thing is supposed to, like, keep going, right? Keep going because you never know. And so, I mean, you've become involved in this great athletic organization. I'm in, personally, I'm in a little over my head with this because I'm not the biggest sports guy. And so I don't know all the questions to ask you. That said, the journey is the thing. And, it's like what got you here was a lot of hard work, a lot of belief, a lot of faith. And I mean, it's great. And you're gonna build on your successes, and you're gonna build on the lessons. I don't call them failures unless you do it twice. Like, right? Everybody can make a mistake. And if you make a mistake, it's usually something you can recover from. So what's the lesson? And so you build on that. It's like this is awesome. So yeah, now in your role, you're overseeing ops again, right? Operations.
Yeah, I mean BYU Athletics, you call it ops, call it what it is. Super exciting. It's as you were talking, it made me think about I have a phrase that we use in our family, and it's you talked about effort and you talked about God's hand. It's work as if everything depends on you, and pray as if everything depends on God. And that's kind of been the mantra of me and my wife, my two daughters, of what makes us happy and what makes us succeed and successful and do well. So those phrases I think really help me in life.
I
So
think that's great, right? It's like um, have a plan, know when to let go, and be willing to do the work, right? Because there are people that try and over control everything, and it's sort of like you don't know everything, and you don't even have to know the how that things are going to happen. You just have to know what it is that you want, and the next step shows up for you. And then you do that, and then the next step shows up for you. That's the work. And you've been doing that the entire time. So that's part of the journey that I wanted to celebrate with you is, like everyone's leadership journey to wherever they are now, it's not done. And also as you look back, you go, yeah, this thing prepared me for this thing. And that's why I'm a big fan of, well, great. So this or something better. What are you after? And if you don't get that, that's where faith comes in. Like this or something better. It's the next thing.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
absolutely. I've been in some really challenging times, tough times, hard times. When I was no longer with Kite, I didn't know where it was going to end. I was doing everything I can. I had some great mentors. Jen Carroll was one who coached me up, and she always told me drive to my passion. And I'm like, well, I kind of reinvented myself in biotech. I want to stay with biotech. And little by little, one thing happened after another, and it just, you I guess I'm just grateful for all the things that have happened, and it does take effort, and God loves effort. God wants us to work hard, and He applauds that, and He rewards us as long as we're living like we're supposed to live and do what we do and love Him. And anyways, so that yeah, I think what you're saying is spot on.
So great. It's so great. What haven't I asked you that you were thinking we would be talking about? Is there anything that you want to share that we haven't touched on?
I talked about mentors, and I just want to share my journey
Yes.
after the military to find my position at Kite Pharma. And it kind of goes with my why piece that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The military had a program that put you as a basically an intern, a fellowship with a Fortune 500 company or any company. And it was great. It was a 3 month journey that I was actually on my terminal leave time of my military, and I got to be with a company. So I was fortunate enough I looked at a few different organizations. All of them were biotech. Amgen was one, Kite was one, and Genentech was one. And I had a lot of mentors, and one of them was from Amgen. His name was Jeff Chisholm, and he was like me, a former retired Navy captain, and he gave me three great things to do on my internships. 90 days focused in on it, and I decided to join Kite, by the way. And he said, you want 1/3 of your time doing the job that they want you to do, 1/3 of the time networking, and 1/3 of the time, prepping, interviewing, and trying to land that job. So when I went to Kite, there was no guarantee of a job. It was like, okay, 90 days. And to be honest with you, most of this internship was more for the junior, the person who got out of the military 5 or 10 years, but I had been in, like 29 years. And so I was a little anomaly, a little more senior, and I just took what he said and I executed it. And he talked about networking, and I used to like networking used to put the cackles on my neck go up. Oh, I got to stand with this group and be social and hold a cup in my hand and talk to people. And I found through the military they had this great program, and someone recorded a book. It was a 20-minute networking meeting. It basically walks you through how to hold a quick, tight, quiet meeting. And so I executed that plan. And what Jeff taught me, he said he talked to 100 people before he actually got a job. So I set a goal. I'm going to talk to 100 people over 90 days. 100 people. I'm going to network with them. So the 60th person I get to, 60, I've got my elevator pitch down. I had everything. I mean, 60 times I'm talking to you, it's a quick 5 minute elevator pitch, and then you ask some key questions. I think in one of your former podcasts, maybe the guy that just got released here talked about networking and studying the person and studying the organization, and that's what I did. I mean, that was like my job. I would spend probably 30 minutes to an hour on each person I talked to preparing. Anyways, I ended up getting to at Kite. It was he's called the head of technical operations. I kind of term it the chief operating officer. He was over three-fourths of the company. And I sent him a note. I said, "Hey, I'd love to meet with you." And he said, "Yes." I'm like, "What? Oh my gosh, this is amazing." So I got on with Chris McDonald, and I explained, what I did in the service, some of the things I've kind of talked to you about before, Wayne. And and he said, "Wow, this is amazing." And he basically said, we want you on our team." I'm like, "What?" And I was shocked, and it was like I just couldn't believe that came about. And I had interviewed with different jobs for Kite at that time, and I was hoping to hear if I got this certain one. And it turned out I didn't get this specific job in supply chain at Kite, but went back to Chris and I said, "Well, I'm going to hold you accountable to what you just said." Kind of threw a little bit of leadership right back at him, and sure enough, so he found a position for me at Kite, and we had a few other interns that also got hired there, and so it was just that whole journey. Ended up talking to over 100 people at Kite, but on that 60th one, you never know who you're going to talk to,
Right.
that's going to help you out and be there to help you. So that was I guess one of the things I wanted to share is that networking and talking to people and really creating allies and basically, I don't know, serving and winning hearts. That's kind of another piece of what I think out of life.
I think that's great. Plus, it's the doing the reps. It's one thing to go, well, I have a good story. Or people should just love me because look at all the history I have. And it's like nobody knows you. Nobody knows you. And even if they know you from your social media, they still don't know you. So how are you going to show up? What is it you're going to say? And you had a great plan of a hundred interviews, 100 meetings, like really fast-paced meetings where you could just work through it. And two-thirds of the way through, you're like, ta-da, you got this thing. Fantastic. That's really it's great. And it doesn't like it once you have that, once you've done those reps, it doesn't leave you, right? It's like networking. You could walk into a room now and just be pretty much at ease. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm just grateful for those that I've met that have taken an interest in me, and I want to pay it forward, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's 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 who I am. Is, oh my gosh, this person was so great to me.
Yeah.
Without this certain person, I would have never even had this opportunity at this job. And that's where, like I said, that God knows what the best thing for us to happen and at the right time, and that was all part of it. And so I know, just meeting you, I'm grateful for this. It was what a great connection it's been. We've had a lot of great chats,
Yeah.
and don't think that I haven't forgot them. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I don't, we're not done. So it's like there's more. And, just meeting you and learning your story, but really learning your heart. that's what made me want to have you on the One Sharp Sword podcast, was really like, here's a man who lives his beliefs and is aligned in wanting, truly wanting to help others. And it's like that piece was like, let's tell your story. And right. And it's a different story. I talk with people in the tech field, and I talk with people in the finance field, and I talk with people in all kinds of telephone answering, um, and biotech, and it's so incredible. Everybody has a different story, and you came through the Navy for decades. You built on the leadership you got there. You always had that dream of team sports, not just individual, right? It's team, and you talked about the multiplier. Um, that on a team, there's never just one person, right? You're always better because of the people around you. And so I'm kind of recapping the things we've talked about. And those are the leadership lessons that I love to draw out, especially like One Sharp Sword, this podcast. The subheading is cutting through to what matters most. And I think, I'm kind of going on and on about it, Damon. And, for me, it's what matters most is your heart and your ability to help others. And that's why I have you here. So glad you were here to tell your stories.
Awesome. Appreciate your time, Wayne. Really good. Great
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, truly. Anything else you want to share, or if people wanted to reach out to you and find out more, or help you on your next big next, how would they find you?
Yeah, love to help anyone who wants to chat. I want to share. I want to give back. I want to serve. I want to win your heart. I want to be your friend. So I definitely want to help out. Well, I'm not a big social media, but I am pretty avid on LinkedIn. So
Oh, that's great. Damon is available for a good chat and or support. So cool. Thanks for being here. Really good.
awesome, Wayne. Thank you.
Oh,
Appreciate it.
yeah, good stuff. My guest today, Damon Dixon, and this is One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most. I'm your host, Dr. P, Dr. Wayne Pernell, your host, your guide, your coach on this journey. We'll see you here again next time. Thanks for being with us.